Man, play starting off with the 199 super chat, man. I feel like back in the day, I don't know how old people are that are watching this, but remember when the people used to sell the Washington Post on the corner? That's what I feel like, man. You just walked over, bought a newspaper, and said, "All right, y'all, thank y'all for y'all generosity and y'all time this morning."
Old
But
school.
we, you gotta take them back sometimes, man. You gotta realize where we came from. We actually used to get our news in the paper. Y'all get y'all
Mhm.
news from YouTube and Twitter and everywhere
Twitter.
else. Man, Twitter, X, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you get your news from. I'm just glad you're watching it here. Hit the like button, subscribe, become a member, so on and so forth. But talk about hot off the presses, man. Fresh off the presses. We went from me
Mm.
saying Dan Quinn could bring all of this to your team, Joe. Like, I know you wanted Ben Johnson. I know EB is there, but Dan Quinn went to a Super Bowl. He lost, but he went. He also he went as a coordinator with the Seahawks. They won. They lost the second one, but they won the first one. You get your
Mhm.
Legion of Boom. You got the young defense, and now he gets a second chance at life.
Mm.
Is Dan the man for the Commanders? I should have said Dan the Commander. That would have been nice. I should have thought of that one. But yesterday, if you don't know now, if you were living under a rock or if you were doing a social media cleanse like some people do, you don't know that the Washington Commanders have went back. They went back to back with defensive coaches now. They signed Dan Quinn, formerly Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. I don't know how long the actual deal is, but hopefully
That
it's
ain't
for the long.
long.
Yeah, hopefully it's for the long run, Joe, and it's good things in your favor. So let's know. You see, yeah, to the Commanders, and Joe being a residential Commanders fan here. How you feeling, man?
No Chip Kelly. All right. So, all right. Came on here yesterday, Tomo, and you was telling me, Joe, Dan Quinn is not a bad option. Now, I should have, at the moment, all right, I'm like, if I didn't want the Commanders to make a decision because this is what we have left. This is what we got to work with. So we got to pick one of these guys. These are not our guys, but we're gonna pick them. But what I'm hearing, it sounds like he's been on their radar, and he's a guy that actually been eyeing. A lot of it because of his leadership. They say his leaders like that's what I've been hearing this whole coaching process. That's why we went to Detroit because leadership. Ben Johnson and I keep forgetting the other coordinator name. Um, but both of them show leadership, and they're under Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's a leader at SYZ, but Dan Campbell is a great leader also. So, but I should listen to you know why? Because right before that topic, we had a Kellen Moore topic, another former Cowboy, and you told your honest truth, and it wasn't really like it was an okay hire, but you wasn't really happy about it. So, and the Eagles are arch rival. Commanders are arch rival. So you
Mm-hmm.
telling me, Joe, this is actually good. I gotta listen. I gotta take your word for it. You know what I mean? At least for right now. All right. So, but what I said in the chat was, this reminds me, and I said this last year when we hired Eric Menemy, Mike Brown all over again. This is like Mike Brown. And then shout out to Kevo. I give him his props. He told me, Joe, you a year too soon. Kept saying that, right? You're a year too soon. So I'm gonna get the Eagles they props today. So, in the chat, y'all gotta click the link in the bio. I another voice memo. Hey, okay, you might be right. I was a year too early. This move actually is more like Mike Brown because when Mike Brown got hired, first of all, Mark Jackson was available, Dan Tony was available, and there were other coaches, but those were the two names that I was like, that's why I want Dan Tony. Imagine Fox with Dan Tony. I was geeking. And then we hired Mike Brown. I was like the Westbrook. What? I I was like, what? Mike Brown. So I didn't really feel good about that because I don't know. I felt like he was who he was because of what's the name? LeBron James. He goes to the Lakers and then he starts off 1-4 and he gets fired. And I'm like, but he was a defensive coordinator for the Warriors. Then after I heard the press conference, I felt much better because he talked about building a winning culture. Dan Quinn went to the Super Bowl. A lot of people say, hey, you had the MVP, Matt Ryan. You definitely had that, right? You had Kyle Shanahan. Soon
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Shanahan left, start going down, right? When you got fired, you went 0-5. So but he went as a defensive coordinator. He did change that whole system. Mike Nolan, God bless his soul, right? Came in there and ruined y'all whole defense, and then he just cleaned that whole thing up. So I feel a little bit more confident, Tomo. I'm liking this move more and more. Now in six, I'm gonna let you go more in detail because you know more about him, right? In 6 seasons as a Falcons coach, 43 and 42. Ron Rivera. That's one thing I didn't like. You know, that's
Mm-hmm.
an average, but he did go to the Super Bowl. All right. As a defensive coordinator in Seattle, 2 seasons, finished first in yards allowed and points allowed. That's huge. But we also the roster he had, the Legion of Boom, right? In 3 seasons with the Cowboys, the Cowboys ranked top 10 each year in points allowed, twice led the league in takeaways. But since he's been a Cowboy, y'all have led the league in takeaways. So I'm feeling better. And the last thing I'm gonna say is this: I saw a tweet, right? A tweet by JP Finley. Shout out to Mark, right? JP Finley is a reporter out of Washington, NBC, right? He said, I got a text from an AFC coach after Rivera was fired. And the text said, Quinn is the best head coach candidate out there. Will not find a more authentic leader of men with a battle plan for victory. Period. Leader, organized, vision, communicator, ball coach. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So, Tomo, you tell me more about this hire because you know more than me.
All right, so you said it earlier. You try to allude to say that Dan Quinn left, and maybe y'all can get another person from Dallas who name start with the letter M. Mm-mm. That started with a U, but mm-mm. I will say this: think of that same player that you're talking about, and when he got drafted, and what position he got drafted at, versus the player that you see on the field today. Mikey got drafted at linebacker. He played 2 or 3, maybe I think 3 games at linebacker. I think it was probably week 3. We played the Chargers. D-Law got hurt, and Dan Quinn said, "Hey, go rush the passer for us," and it's been up ever since. If you know one thing about defensive coordinators and just coaches in the NFL, they can be stubborn. So if I draft you as a linebacker, I want to develop you as a linebacker, and we just gonna have to find another pass rusher while D-Law is out. The fact that he's seen what Michael Parsons' true ability is, that's a checkpoint. Another thing, look at Trayvon Diggs. His first season in the year, first season in the year. Man, I'm still waking up, y'all. Bear with me. So his first year in the league, he was getting beat bad. Like he was getting beat bad, but he had a few interceptions, but you could see the development was there. Fast forward to the second season, led the league in interceptions, also led the league in giving up the most yards. You know, with the Cowboys, you always got to say the negative when you're praising them about the positive. And then boom, fast forward again. Trayvon now, after 2 to 3 years in the league, is known as one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Michael Parsons is known as the next LT to some people. Skip don't like it no more, but hey, it is what it is. But the idea is there. You look at players like who's always been on the Cowboys roster, Dorrance Armstrong, Osa Odighi, Azua, Dante Fowler, who's followed this guy everywhere. He just gets the best out of his players. Malik Hooker, J.R. Curse. These are all players that were kind of castaways on other teams. They came here and they kind of found their name with Dallas. Jordan Lewis. The list can go on and on as far as just the defense. That's the type of leadership that you're getting in the building right now. Granted, you can look at the numbers. You can look at what he did in the Super Bowl. Because trust me, I did the same thing when we signed him from Atlanta. Because remember, him coming from Atlanta was fresh off of the same Cowboys team that came back and did the watermelon kick and beat the Falcons.
Yeah,
And I
dog.
was sitting and I was just like you, Joe. I'm like, why would we want Dan Quinn? Did you see that defense down there? Like they were trash. Also, Dan Quinn was a defensive line coach. So just like Mike Brown clip, be prepared because he had clips in Dallas training camp where he working with the actual D line, like out there on the field. I don't know if he's gonna do too much of that as the head coach, but this is how personal he gets with his players. What is one thing that Washington has? A defensive line. The 2 D tackles that you all got. My man was cussing y'all out last season, but I don't think that's gonna happen this year. I think it's gonna be a big change coming, man. So again, Joe, I really like the move so much. I don't like it that it's with y'all, but I just like the move because this guy does need a second chance, and you all are trying to turn around. So me being a football fan, just watching the game of football, I like the move for y'all. I like it for Dan, and also I don't want to bring up Mike Nolan because if you're a Cowboys fan, you don't want to bring up those years. But we went from worst to first, and that's 3 years in a row. So think about that.
Yeah, and then his coaching staff. I know Joe Witt is expected to sign with us.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
he's a defensive coordinator.
yeah, and I know you mentioned like he was the guy with all the what you say? He said he did. What you say about him?
I
You
think Joe
spoke
Witt
so
was
highly of.
so it was Charles Woodson. It was a clip that came out because, of course, once everybody trying to get rid of Dan Quinn, they like the Cowboys need to hire up, and everybody was talking about Joe Witt. I was again, this what made me do the research. I'm like, who is Joe Witt? Why y'all keep talking about him so much? He was like Joe Witt Jr. He was with the Browns. He was with the Packers that year. They went to the Super Bowl, and he was somewhere else. I can't think of it right now. If somebody in the comments know, send it. But Charles Woodson came out in an interview and was like, if anybody needs to be a defensive coordinator, it's Joe Witt. And it was like, why? It was like, because the year he got traded from Oakland, remember Charles Woodson was with the Raiders, and then he got traded to the Packers. He said he made me find my love for football again. Like the way that he was, yeah, he was the race, he was, but he's like the way that he actually coaches with the team, you actually want to get better. So think of that, Joe. Look at Dan Quinn, Al Harris, Joe Witt, and think of Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, Michael
Hmm.
Parsons, Malik Hooker, J. Kirk. I can go on and on. But these are all players that you look at and be like, well, if he can get the best out of those guys, imagine we're gonna do with people who already have the talent, but they were just feeling like they were in a sunken place.
Hmm. Yeah,
Y'all
and
in
I
good
feel like
hands.
I feel like Cam Curl will have a like we got to keep him though because he's a
Mark can
free
say
agent.
that now. He can say that now. Y'all might have the best secondary in the NFC East.
Like Tomo, like like I'm hearing good stuff. I'm hearing all good stuff. I'm hearing all good stuff. So we will see, man. We
Yeah,
will
that's
see.
the positives. I mean, but you already said the negatives yesterday about how you can get stuck in your ways. But I look at it like he's not. Let's put it like this: if Kellen Moore was going to be the Eagles, head coach, I would give them more praise because I think they may be. Some people are better to be a head coach, and they're just bad at coordinators. Like Dan
Hmm.
Quinn can get complacent at being a coordinator, but when you're a head coach, somebody else that's on somebody else's plate. You just got to
Yeah.
control the game.
Y'all love Dan Quinn though. I remember when last year when Mike McCarthy he probably had an illness. I don't know what happened, but he didn't coach.
Oh,
I
he
think
had
it was the
COVID.
game before we played y'all. He had an illness, I think, and then
Yep.
y'all played the Saints, and
Yep.
Dan Quinn was the head coach. Like he was on the field, had his hat backwards, and then like the team was just all over him, man. When y'all got the dog, y'all was all jumping on him and everything. I was like, that's tight, man. Like, and then it's funny because I'm hearing a lot of Cowboy fans. Shout out to Michael Irvin, one of them, just killing Dan Quinn. Like you can go ahead and go, but I mean, you can't stop the run. And then you came in my head. Y'all didn't have the personnel for that.
That's what I'm saying.
You work with what you work with, right? And then
Yeah.
you said, Joe, y'all got two D tackles. Like that's a run stopper right there. Two all pro basic D tackles. So, and then but last year the same Cowboy fans last year when he was about to leave and he said, "I'm staying." Thank you God, he's staying.
I mean, you
So
gotta you gotta say that because at the end of the day, when you go from not even touching the quarterback to leading the league in pressures and turnovers,
yeah,
that's a blessing. I'm telling you, like as a Cowboy fan, we got spoiled. Like with Micah
yeah.
and all of them, we got spoiled
Y'all were
because
first impressions, right?
there was a time where we couldn't even look at the quarterback, and we talking about sending blitzes and still couldn't get to the quarterback. So it's like, come on, y'all.
In the Mike
So
Nolan era. The main thing I remember about the Mike
before
Nolan
him,
era was Odell Beckham's run.
oh my god, you talking about with the Browns, the sweep. My goodness, man, that
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 just
that
sums up the defense, bro. Like,
that was bad. That was bad. But yeah,
all right.
well, I mean, we're gonna see, man. At the end of the day, we can give all the praise. We can always talk about the downfalls, and I did see
Mhm.
that with Michael Irvin. I was like, man, you can't be salty, bro.
I know.
But when I heard Michael Irvin, I was like, but that was me with Kellen Moore, so I can't. I see what he's doing here. So you gotta look at it. You gotta look at the glass half full or half empty. And
Oh, that's another thing. Offensive coordinator.
yeah,
I'm hearing the Kubiak brothers that's in the 49ers. Uh Gary Kubiak's sons. Um they both are in the 49ers. I forgot their name. It's two of them. They work with the 49ers. And like one is a pass coordinator and I forgot who the other one is, but they are potential candidates. Like a lot of people saying like watch out for them. And I was from my shout out to Mark. I was like, listen, man, Anybody from the 49ers, I'm cool with. That's calling the offense, I'm cool with.
If you Dan Quinn, you want anybody from the 49ers because you can't beat nobody from that tree. You better get him over here. That's his only downfall. He could beat any other offensive coordinator in the league, but when it come to that tree, they get the best of them. So
yeah, man. So we'll see, man. Airbnb might stay. I don't know, but time will tell.
I mean, we'll talk about EB at another time, but I heard something where they was like he should go back to college. But speaking of college.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.